This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to Purpose-Driven Sobriety. Thank you for joining the Purpose-Driven Sobriety podcast. My name is Christine, and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank a special friend for sponsoring this episode. You know who you are. I love this lady with all of my heart. She chooses to remain anonymous, but I appreciate you and all you do for us in recovery. So today we are doing purpose-driven topics with Jennifer, my fur. Jen and I have been friends for probably about 15 years now, huh? Something like that. Yep. Jen's been on the show before, so you can go back and listen to previous episodes with Jennifer. H is how you would find that. So today what we're going to do is we're going to pull topics out of the fishbowl. And these are topics that are related to recovery, and we'll just round robin, and wherever the spirit leads us is where we'll go. Okay. So since you're my precious guest, you get to go first. Yay!
All right.
Okay.
Here
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Drum roll, please.
Okay. There we go. Family relationships.
A-B.
Yeah. I always pull a doozy, the first one. The heavy ones.
Oh, no, right?
Family relationships. Oh, those aren't easy. But I think there's been a lot of restoration in that area.
Yeah.
And,
Let's say, how long have you been sober?
16. So I'm Jennifer. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I've been sober since September 7th of 07.
Okay, got it.
So 16 years, and it's still, I want to say that this is still happening. This is still the promises.
But wait, everything should be perfect after 16 years.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
See, that's the misnomer. I mean, because
Right.
I'll have 12 this coming March, and people think, well, what's your problem?
Yeah. Well, I didn't think I could get 16 years to begin with, but
16 minutes.
Right. And in the beginning, especially, and I was hopeful that I would. I just wanted to go from, one day sober to 20 years in the first day. But that's not possible. But family relationships have been hard. I mean, and, there's a lot of reparation, a lot of, I was thinking about this morning. You helped me a lot with something. I know you have overcome a lot in relationships, and you told me one time I came to you and I was bawling and I was talking about a family member, and you said to me, your job is to love them. And I have always heard that, and I believe that. I believe that from practicing the principles, reading the book, reading the big book, but to put it into practice is something different. So from that moment forward, I made a decision that even though I was having difficulties with this person, that I was going to show them how much I love them and how grateful I was for them. And that was something I had never thought of before or done before. I mean, family relationships were difficult because I was difficult. I was just a kid. I was a kid. I was immature. And I had a friend, a client actually, she and I were talking about this very thing this week, how, I'd often get the talk, I'm really concerned about you, blah, 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 talk. And, I would just cringe, and but after, being in sobriety and really trying to become an adult in sobriety and act mature and begin to take responsibility for my life and for myself and for my recovery, and realizing that others weren't to blame, it was easier to not be defensive with my family when they would call me on the carpet with something. And, I don't want to be called on the carpet. I don't want to be, held to anything. It's easier to get that from you and, you know, my friend in recovery than it is from my family.
Right.
Because I feel like a little girl, you know, sometimes in my family. But I think that, you know, one of the things, and this is a big leap, but one of the things that I've learned the most is that when you become more dependent on God or your higher power and less dependent on people, it's easier to be corrected from your family. It's easier to accept criticism. It's easier to not blame them and, you know, try to get their approval all the time. So, you know, as a process of growing up in this program, I mean, they say when you start drinking is when you stop growing.
Right.
I mean, I had my first drink at 5, so,
I was gonna say, yeah.
you know, so, you know, there were elements there of being a 5-year-old, often.
Emotionally, yeah.
Emotionally. And, so, yeah, I mean, family relationships are hard. I think the hardest one for me is still my core people, you know, my husband and my child, you know, and accepting myself for exactly where I am, and accepting them exactly where they are and loving them anyway. And that's a whole new level of maturity. And it's really nice to feel that feeling of love even when, you know, he's being a jerk.
Right.
You know, it's still really, that's a new thing for me, to allow him to be a jerk, because I know I'm a jerk sometimes and he still loves me. But yeah, so it's just it's a process. It's a day-to-day process, and it's more about, it's continuing to walk this path, continue to accept responsibility for my own words, thoughts, and actions, and trying to depend on a higher power and be obedient. So it's a new way. It's a really new way. I feel like a baby in a lot of respects in this matter, you know? So, yeah.
One of the things that I have been learning and realizing is that you cannot give away what you don't have. Right? So, forgiveness, grace, understanding, love, compassion, empathy. Empathy was a new word for me, because all I knew was sympathy. Oh, poor you. Yeah. Bless your heart. You know, but like, there are a couple of people in my family that, you know, the relationship is null and void. You know, for now, who knows what God's going to do with that? But what I've learned is that I can't give understanding and empathy. Let me rephrase that. I can't give away what I don't have for myself. If I don't have love for myself, I can't give love away. Right. If I don't have compassion for myself, I can't give it away. If I don't have empathy for myself, I can't give that away. And, you know, in my humble opinion, these two people are still spiritually sick, but, you know, it is what it is. But I don't have any resentment, animosity, because I know that I'm still spiritually sick. I mean, I take my medicine, which is the program of recovery, but I see them. I see the hurt and the whatever. And also, to flip that around, you can't receive what's not already in you. So that if anger is directed towards you for someone you are or something you've done, and it's not true, if you're living a relatively spiritually healthy life, that can't get inside, that can't soak in, and you can't absorb that. It's like, you can sit here and say I'm a lying thief, but that's not true. So I wouldn't internalize that,
right?
Because it's just not true, right? And if you're living in truth, you know, relationships I'm going to project on you how I'm feeling about myself.
Yeah.
And when you say something to me, and if I take it offensively, that's on me. There's something inside of me that's like, either there's truth to that, or I'm just so wounded regarding something else that no matter what you said, I would take it as, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm getting even deeper into how those relationships work. And here's what I've come to realize.
Lay it on me.
One of the biggest things, and it's, it's just the truth. This life is not a team sport. I'm not going to heaven with my husband. Probably not at the same time. I probably will see him there, right? I'm not going to heaven with my children, with my parents, it's me.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm selfish. That just means that I need to make sure that me, person, human being, soul, spirit, whatever you want to say, is okay, has done the deal, is doing the deal. You know what I mean? And everything else, as long as I'm doing that, everything else just seems to, the puzzle pieces just seem to fit on down the path.
Yep.
They're complicated. I thought when I stopped drinking, everybody would just go, "Yay! It's all better now.
Right. Everything's fixed.
Let's just have Thanksgiving." And it didn't work out like that. I had people that came into recovery with me, and I have some that have not, and I can't do anything about that. I just have to love them where they are and let God do what God's going to do. So, enough about them. We don't want to talk about them anymore. What is wrong with us?
No, is it?
You're not going to appreciate it.
Okay, what is it? Character defects.
Oh.
I thought it said chocolate something.
No, I wish it said. Oh, yummy.
Character defects.
I think we need to add chocolate something in.
I was thinking about that this morning.
Character defects. I have them. I have a shit ton of them.
Yeah.
And they're, it is what it is. But the fact of the matter isn't that I'm so grateful for is that I know I have them. I have a solution.
What do you think your most prominent defects of character are? What do you think that is?
It would have to be ego. I have to keep my ego in check. And it's one of those things that I don't think that God gets upset with me when I'm proud of myself. You know what I mean? I need a Pop-Tart. That's an inside joke. My stomach's growling. Anyway, go back to listen to a previous show. And
Pop-Tart, please.
Right? But I have to keep that in check because, and I've said this about this show even, if I'm not careful, I will make the show about me. And it's not about me.
It's not.
I don't want it to be anything about me. That's why I've not paid a penny to produce this show, to put this show out to anybody. All of the listeners that love it have contributed to pay for episodes. Because if I pay for it, I'm going to take possession of it.
Sure.
And I just know me well enough to know that. And whenever I've done that, like we're currently doing Operation Sober Santa. So yeah, which is where we have taken donations and are taking donations, and we will supply Christmas care packages for residents in local sober living houses. And the deal is if I'm not careful, I'll make that about me.
Yeah.
So I know that that's probably my number one character defect. But I also know that A, I have a solution. B, I keep people close enough by me that will gently steer me away from making things about me. And I think that's what keeps the, I call it magic. I know it's not magic, but you know what I mean, in my life happening. The beautiful things that are this podcast, that are this Operation Sober Santa, that are the contributions that I'm able to make to other people that I literally can't claim the results because it wasn't me, right? So anyway, what would you say is your biggest character?
It depends on who you ask.
No, I'm asking you.
So, yeah, I think my husband would come up with a different answer. But lately it's been irritability.
I get that way too.
Yeah, I've just been snarky.
I don't like the way he chooses food sometimes.
Yeah. And so.
Do you have to eat?
do you have to eat?
I mean, sometimes he breathes too loud too.
yeah, I know. Mine grinds his teeth in the
Do you
middle
need
of
to
the
blow
night.
your nose
yeah.
or something? Is there a boogie up there that you're like, ugh?
Yeah, because
I hope he doesn't listen to this
This
episode.
goes back to family relation or
Maybe
yeah,
we need to.
yeah, yeah.
No,
So
character defects.
The thing about this is that it made me think about early on when I would call my sponsor and gripe about that person or this person or whatever, because we do that. That's what we do. We call our sponsor and like you got to
Dump.
Yeah, just vomit it up. And so now being a sponsor, having sponsored many women, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. But what she said to me that just really stopped me in my tracks was, I don't remember what I was griping about, honestly. Something about somebody in my family, I'm sure. And she said to me, oh, I'm glad you don't have that trait. I was like, what? And honestly, it never dawned on me to look at myself first. It was like that seemed like, because it was like in the moment. It wasn't in retrospect, whatever. But it was like, oh, they did this to me, trauma, blah. It was in the moment, and it was like, oh, I'm glad you've never done that before. That was
So
just
is that
harsh.
one of those if you spot it, you got it
Yes,
kind of things?
and
Ew,
that whole if you got
that.
one finger sticking out.
Yeah.
Josie came home with that the other day. I was like, she's like, you have to karate chop people when you're like, yeah, that's right. But I guess that was the first time. I don't know why my sponsor, whenever she says stuff like that, it's like a megaphone in my ear from like then on.
And
it's like, and whenever
life-size mirror pops up,
when it comes up, I'm like hearing her, and she's not even there. And it's just magical that way. But yeah, I think irritability is one of them lately. So like when these crop up, we ask God to remove it, and I forget that I'm not running the show. I'm not running the show. Another one is disobedience. Because I can get onto social media instead of doing my prayer and spending adequate enough time, with Him in the morning, and that's just disobedience. There's just nothing, foofy about that. That's just downright disobedience, and I'm like,
Going back to what you were saying about irritability, Bob Darrell, which if you're listening, Bob Darrell, I'm trying to get him on the show. He does one of those. He's on one of the we call them speaker tapes still, that I've been listening to for quite a while, and he introduces himself with his last name, so I'm not revealing anything. But he tells a story of a guy that he was sponsoring that. He was just crotchety and growly all the time, and I can't remember his exact words, but he's always taking everybody else's inventory, and one day Bob said to him, he said, here's what I think you should do, and the guy's like, yeah, what should I do? And he said, I want you to go home and pray. And what should I pray? And he said, I want you to pray that tomorrow God gives you the grace and the judgment that you've given other people today.
okay.
I know, right? He said, and then he gave him a big, he said he starts walking away, and he said across the parking lot he hears, F you, kind of thing. Because he knew what that meant.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, what if, God treated you exactly the way you treated that
Ouch.
waitress or that waiter or that clerk that maybe lost a loved one yesterday or, that just resonated with me. And I thought, sometimes I would not want to pray that. I would not want to pray that.
Right. Yeah, I have to be careful. And the negativity, that brings up negativity. So I have to, so like, what do I do with that? I think that's the big question. What do you do with that when it pops up, And I mean, I think we have to have people outside of ourselves we can talk to about that to point out.
That you have given the authority to.
Well,
see, that's the big difference, which is you were just talking about that a sponsor can say something to you, but if your husband said that same thing to you, you claw his eyeballs out.
Right, and I guess, and I'm not there yet, but I guess the idea is that we're so open that we can't accept criticism from anybody.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm. No.
So
No.
I'm not there yet.
No.
But yeah. Don't even
No.
think about it. You know who you are.
Right.
But yeah, it's okay. so the question is, is it true? Like whatever is being said, is it true? Is that true about me? And there have been times where it's like, that's not even true about me. That's them. That's their fear.
Right,
That's
projecting.
their stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but like sometimes it is true.
And
it's
sometimes even when you say you're asking yourself, is it true? Sometimes I lie to me a lot. I lie to me more. I haven't lied to a single human being since March 14, 2012 at approximately 11:30 a.m. But I will lie to myself all day, every day. So that's where, again, I have to check with someone I've given the authority to tell me the truth. This was said to me. This is what I think. What's the truth?
Yeah. And it takes a lot to uncover,
Yeah.
what's at the bottom of that. But it, again, good sponsorship. My sponsor would say, well, I remember I had a sponsee call me one day, and she accused me of something or made a statement about me, and I was offended and upset and all of that. It was just like, what? What I normally do. And I called my sponsor, and she's like, well, I mean, is that even true about you? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, why are you wearing it like it is?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, you've just taken whatever she said and put it on, and you're defending yourself like it is true. So either it is true or that's like really sick. You're doing something that's not your stuff.
But you want to convince that person.
Right.
Because see, I deal with that with my family members too. You want to convince that person that they're wrong.
Yeah. Like, don't
Which
you
is
see?
insanity when you think about it.
It is. And I don't, so that, like the level of control, the tentacles, like.
I want to control what you think about
yes,
me, what you say about me.
What I have to, the way I want you to perceive me. And that used to be really big in my life.
It's exhausting.
Really big in my life.
It's exhausting.
It is, and it's very manipulative, and it's very, it's just all sorts of spiritual sickness. And I don't want any of that. It's like, there are plenty of people who don't like me. Okay. I'm learning how to live with that, and be okay with that. But I don't have to wear your truth,
right?
Or your perception either. So, I know who I am today better than I've ever known myself to be, and I feel like I'm on the right walk. Do I do it perfectly every day? Hell no. But no one does it. No one else does either.
Right.
We're all just trying to walk a walk. So,
Okay, your turn.
Okay.
Do a good one, Jennifer. Come on. No whammy. What?
Hatred.
What the actual?
Did you put this
I
in
did
here?
not. I swear there's good ones in here. Ugh.
Yeah. Okay, hatred.
We're not allowed.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't even be, like, it says I can't even afford it. Anger.
Oh, yeah, right? Shit.
Like, this was even like, okay, there have been times when I have felt that before.
Oh, me too. Oh.
And then it's kind of like, I'm reminded, it's kind of like what you said. And it's for good reason. It's like hatred. Like hating somebody, like I can always justify that, right? Like they did the most despicable thing to me or my kid, and they get what they deserve. Until I go to a meeting or I go talk to somebody about it or, my sponsor or somebody else, and they say, they're God's kids too.
And God loves them as much. I hate that. I hatred that. That God loves them as much as he loves me.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And
that's...
Well, okay, so here's an example. So I was in a meeting, and I was really struggling with my then ex-husband, who was doing a lot of things to our daughter that I didn't agree, like I full on despised him for. And there were some pretty rough things. And I went to a meeting, and I knew it was wrong to hate him or despise him. I knew that, my program of ethics doesn't allow me to do that to anybody. It was beyond the what would Jesus do? It's just like, beyond that, because this is my kid. This is the, the thing that means the most. And so I went to a meeting, and there was a man there in a meeting, and I actually thanked him recently at our spring fling. There was a man in a meeting, and I went up to him later and thanked him. But he was saying, if you're wishing for or hoping for the worst for somebody because you hate them so much, remember that, it's not going to be good for you or for anybody to do that. So, like, the best outcome is to pray for them, right? It's to pray for them so that they get better, not that they get worse.
Right.
And I feel like hatred is a prayer for people to get worse. That it changed my perspective on that. And I really felt like, so I knew it was wrong to hate him, but after that meeting, it was like, okay, I know what I need to be doing now. I need to be praying for him, because not praying for him isn't going to help him. It's not going to make him better.
Well, and it's not going to help you too. I mean,
Well, sure, yeah.
Just like we were just talking about, you can't give away what you don't have. And also you do give away what you have.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying hatred into the restaurant and this waitress drops something or has your food wrong, do you think you'll handle her with just as much grace as you would if you went as a happy person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Well,
mean,
and
so
you
that
can't-
it oozes out on all of that. Whatever's in you is going to ooze out onto
Well, and
the
I had a
people
little
you
girl
love.
who's watching me.
Yeah.
And like, do I want to teach her to hate? Do I want to teach her that? And is that something I can really cover up? No. You can't cover up
You think you
hatred.
can, just like we did our
Yeah,
drinking.
but you know people who have that darkness and the people who have light, and so, and I want to be around the people who have light.
Amen.
So,
Okay,
What
enough
about-
of that.
did you
Enough
talk?
of that, huh?
did you talk?
Yeah, well, yeah, basically during that whole thing. Okay, well, this is good.
Okay.
Service.
Oh, I like service. Yeah.
Service is
Okay.
good. I didn't like it before, and I like it now.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let's tell the full truth about that. I remember there were times where people would ask you to speak, and you would say
No, and it wasn't. Yeah, my first 9.5 years, 10 years, I refused to tell my story, and it wasn't I don't want to. It was just a no, thank you. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do. That's all right. Thanks anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I remember the first time I told my story at our home group. I was a vomit ball of mess. I was. My hands were sweaty. My mouth was so dry I couldn't even talk. It was insanity. So I did it, but I did it. I was a brave little person, and I did it, and I swore I'd never do it again.
Yeah.
Ever do it again. So let's go to the first part of this year. And I can't remember what the situation was, but it was the very first part of this year, and I made an agreement with God that I would not say no from this point on. If someone asked me to speak or do something of service, I would not say no. I would make myself do it, And lo and behold, February, I spoke at the International Women's AA Conference in Dallas, Texas. And I didn't die. I was shocked that I didn't die. And there was all these beautiful, which we can get into that later, there were all these beautiful lessons that happened there that God just showed up and was like, I'm here. And then other people had suggested this, but you tend to be a little bit more in my face about doing
office next door.
about doing this podcast, and look what God has done with that. Yeah. So it's one of those things that I don't know what the heck he wants me to do from any point on. I'm just willing.
Yeah.
And when he calls you up, man, get ready.
Yeah.
Because it's the ride of your life, and it's the most beautiful thing that you'll do. So it's not about me. It's not about me.
No.
Which makes me really sad and just glorious all at the same time, because I don't want it to be about anything to be about me.
Right.
Because I'll screw it up. I'll screw it up when I stand back and just, it's just the lessons that I've learned, especially just over this past year, have just been, I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even.
It's getting out of the way. getting out of the way of God.
And just being willing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just showing up. Yeah. Service is, so I've had to do different types of service, right? And I can't always sponsor people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I have sponsored people. I am sponsoring right now. But I feel like the most growth I get is when I take them through the steps. Absolutely, hands down. But I also feel like service can also be, you know, being on the board of your, you know, home group.
Oh, sure.
You know, or volunteering for a conference, or, you know, whatever.
Well, it doesn't even have to be program related.
Right.
I mean, the service is just
that's
getting
true.
out of yourself and helping
Somebody
someone.
else.
If you're a church
up
goer
trash
or a family member,
Yeah.
if they need groceries picked up, I mean, that's
just-
service too.
And you know, I didn't think that I could be of help to anybody. I guess as I grew in the program, I became more secure in the knowledge of I am my own expert on my own alcoholism, you know, and so that is, you know, I could look back and I could see the disease in every aspect, right? And I could share that, and I can share recovery. But I didn't know that then. I couldn't even wrap my head around alcoholism. And I mean, I've been around this program forever, you know, because my parents were in the program. But I really, until I went through it and I experienced it and, you know, had to fail, you know, that's when I realized what this program was really about. And then being able to share that, you know, going through the steps and then sharing that over and over and over and over again with people. I mean, I don't even know. I used to go, we used to go out to the ranch. Now it's shut down. And we would take meetings out there. And from that, I would take women through their first, you know, 5 steps.
Right.
You know, and usually that was about the time when they would leave. But the days that I didn't have Josie, I would go out there and I would listen to someone's 4th step. We would do a 5th step together all day, you know, and that's how I really understood my own alcoholism, was listening to other people who shared their stories about themselves and their own alcoholism and how similar we were, you know. It was just that I was more sober than they were and just a little bit ahead. But service gets me out of myself every time. So like you know, when I go through periods in my business where it's like, it's real roller coaster. It's up and down, you know, I have 2 businesses and it's up and down. And, you know, when all else fails, you know, get to work with another alcoholic.
Right.
You know, and every single time when I've done that, you know, God works out my time and I grow. There's some way I grow. So, and then I get busy again, you know, so.
Well, and we get so much more out of it, especially when in helping another alcoholic than that person ever would. I mean, that's the beauty of this
And watching
deal.
them like
The light come on.
Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. And then encouraging them
right
that
there.
you've got to turn around and do that for somebody else, more than one somebody's. But like, you've got to get busy doing this because you've got to give it away to keep it.
Oh, when I get someone to the 9th step, that's when I insist that they be open to taking on a sponsee.
Absolutely.
That because it's I think that's when they're primed, but B, when you see someone coming up behind you, you're going to get on through the steps.
Well, until
you know
11
what I
and
mean?
12, you're going to work every day.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
I mean, you're going to continue on with that, and so and now I can say I have a grand sponsee now.
I know. I love it.
Oh, and that was great because in the meeting yesterday, talking about like doing, you know, showing people that it can be done. She got her 9-month chip, and she made the statement. Well, somebody, meaning her sponsor, told me that it's not for you; it's for everybody else to see. You know, give hope. I
That
mean,
person
really,
who's coming in for their 3rd or 4th day or 3rd or 4th
can relate
week.
to somebody who's 9 months sober versus somebody like me who's 16 years.
Right.
You know, it's like the newer. I mean, like, they are the most important people in the rooms. The newer, the better. It's like, you got a day, fabulous, you know, like, we're going to walk it through together, you know? So.
That bugs me when people say that, though.
What?
That the new people are the most important. People. I don't agree.
You don't agree?
I don't agree. I think we're equally. I think we're equally.
All right then.
But someone said that the other day, and I thought, no, they're not. They're important, definitely.
So in context, so when I got that first year, because my ego was so big, I felt like I had won an Academy Award.
Oh, I did too. I won a party.
I remember, and didn't you play a song?
I think I did. Like as I'm entering the room, like a Rocky song or something.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a lot to celebrate. It's like, every day in that first year that you're sober is a party day. I mean, that's like a,
Miracle.
like, wahoo.
Miracle.
Yeah. And so, but like that, I mean, like I expected nothing less than a standing ovation, you know, because like, look what I did, and it truly felt like I had arrived. And, I mean, I still feel, I'm very grateful for my sobriety, every day of my sobriety. But I just remember having, to me, the celebration need to equal my ego.
And it so didn't.
Yeah.
Probably didn't. It's high expectations equals low serenity.
I have a lot. Okay, so character defect, humility being one of them. I go back and forth with that one. So.
Okay, is it your turn?
I don't know. Did you draw?
Wait a minute. No, you did you just? What was the last one?
You did service.
Okay, it's your turn. I'm just making sure. Oh, that's right.
Okay. Temptation.
Golly.
Yeah. I feel like God's trying to say something to me
Right?
today.
We need to add those. We need to line those up and make a sentence out of them.
Yeah.
Line these
Temptation.
things up, make a sentence.
Okay, temptation. Well, I was tempted to drink until I started getting busy with the steps. Let's relate that to how I drank. I couldn't avoid it. I could not avoid temptation. I felt the need before I got sober and started working the steps. And even in those first 2 weeks, my gosh, it was like the temptation to drink was so strong. It was just like, because I was withdrawing. I mean, I was still craving
Physical
it. And my mind, of course, I still had the obsession of the mind going, and nothing, I didn't feel like anything new had happened to me, And the truth be told, very little new had happened to me. I went to meetings and, but it wasn't really until I worked my third step that I've talked about before with my sponsor that, steps 1, 2, and 3, that I felt the temptation removed to drink. And that was probably the biggest miracle at that point. Along with God talking to me directly, him, asking him the question, having him answer. That was probably the biggest promise to come true, like that we're not avoiding temptation, but I have temptations for other things now.
I was going to say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that
so
doesn't
temptation
stop.
doesn't go away, but it's just maybe transferred to other objects or things or even
So
people.
would you say what you were just talking about, or is it this, because I'm just asking, is it the same thing? The obsession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that the same thing?
Well,
is it temptation?
So like temptation is like when for me when being in the presence of alcohol and not one of the older ladies in our group at one point was talking about how she was she could hear alcohol calling her, like there was beer in the refrigerator and it was calling her name, and I knew exactly what she felt about that. I mean, I was like, yeah, like when there's alcohol in the room and that temptation is there. And then it can turn into that obsession. Like, well, maybe I'll just, have one, use the lie, right? Maybe I'll just have one drink and, it'll be okay this time,
Right.
And so like that temptation draws us in or draws me in, the obsession takes over.
Gotcha.
That's how I see it. I don't know.
Yeah, that was also a thing with me. I still to this day, almost 12 years later, I'm sure I could. I won't have it in my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is my safe place.
Yep.
I can go anywhere. I'll go buy it for you if you're having a party or you need me to pick it up. Oh, not a problem. Or if you have it right beside me, I'll go get it for you. In my home, I can't have it.
Yeah.
I just can't have it.
Well,
That needs to be for me a pure safe place for me.
Well, we don't either. We don't have it in our home. And there was a time when there was, I don't know, a bottle of scotch that my husband had gotten from work or something. I don't remember who gave it to him. It was in the garage forever. And I said, could you just go ahead and give that away to, our son and just get rid of it? And I think he did. So there's no alcohol in the house either. But I've been places where, like alcohol is served, and I'm not tempted at all. I do feel like I've been placed in a position of neutrality, and I don't mean to sound so, catchphrasy or whatever, but it really is, that is a promise that has come true.
Right.
I don't feel that pull,
Right.
And then, because I already know, I'm already aware that, I'm a big fat liar. I will lie to myself. If I start that, I know where I'll end up.
Right.
I know that I have the allergy. I know that I have the mental obsession, and I'm going to go right back there. So I can't drink. I can't, that's the thing. It's like, I didn't come, a lot of people come to AA to manage their drinking.
Well, that's what I thought. I fully expected
I had no
them
delusion
to teach
of
me
that.
how to drink properly, and they failed miserably at it.
Yeah.
I figured, there was some kind of a secret or some kind of a little therapy session or something that they would, because if you'd asked me why did you drink the way you did last night, I would tell you all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
But when you remove those problems, I should be able to drink fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I had no delusion of that because my parents had been in AA and they didn't drink. And when someone slipped and started drinking again, everybody knew, that, it hadn't gotten any better, so I kind of knew that I was on the up and up, and it took me a long time to come back for that very reason. It was like, I'm not going to give up alcohol for my life, for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then we find out it's just one day at a time, one day at a time. And my life has gotten so good. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much good going on in my life, and I have highs and lows, and everybody else does too. But there is a lot of good. So, what was the topic?
I don't know. It's we're moving on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Let's go to the very bottom. Surprise. Courage.
Oh, okay, yay!
I like courage. I don't have courage.
What?
I have a willingness.
Yeah.
I have a willingness and a trust. For me, I am willing to do whatever God directs me to do, and I have a trust that He will give me the ability to do that when the time is proper. In our literature, in how it works, it says, "May you find that one is God. May you find Him now," which is where I never am. I'm never ever in now. I'm in yesterday, or I'm in next Tuesday or Friday or next I'm never in the now, and that is the only place that God says you will find me.
Okay, so I'm probably going to get this wrong, but the origin of the word courage comes from French, cour, and there's probably a Latin and probably some other languages that came from too. But it means heart. So doing things with heart, or
really,
yeah.
Well, you think in love. Well, even same thing. Love.
Yeah.
Because you see a burning house with a child inside of it, and you've got bystanders and a mother. Who's going to be running inside that house?
It doesn't feel like courage. Like what you're talking about. It doesn't feel like courage. It doesn't feel like, like there's a question that you wouldn't
that you
go,
puff up your chest and put your arms on your, and do the
Right.
Superman pose,
Yeah.
and it's just, you're
But
right.
I think
it's
love. I think a lot of people look at you and think, like that probably is one of your better attributes. We're talking about like character defects, but that's not how you see yourself, because
Not
you
at
just
all.
do the
I'm
next.
scared shitless
Right.
half the time.
I know, and so you do things with heart even when you're scared.
and leave the results
There
to
you
God.
go. And that's what courage is. And so, like, I think that, we can talk about character defects, but let's talk about our attributes too. You know, like,
Which which I think is so important.
Absolutely.
When especially when you're doing a step 4, where you're beating the shit out of yourself. I
Right.
mean, it feels like you're not doing that, but it feels like it.
And it takes a lot of
But
courage.
I have sponsees that's like, okay, what's good about you?
Yeah.
Oh, nothing. Yeah, bullshit. What's good about you? What do you love about yourself? There is something.
Yeah.
And if you can find that little nugget, you can usually see the other things too. That but courage. I just want to have love and trust in the Father. To do with me as He will. And that was one of the things. That's the beginning of this year. That's I say that I prayed the most dangerous prayer there is. Use me.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I have a story. So, and it really, it's related to life and starting my own business and, training teachers. And we were in the building and Chuck was still there. And Chuck Williams was a great mentor to Christine and Rick and to me. Very spiritual man. And my first day of training, I had 3 people I was training. I think I've told you this story. And I mean, like, I was so scared to do it by myself. And I was the only trainer at that time doing the entire 2-year program by myself. I just want to say that I know of. And so, and people looked at me like, are you kidding? Like, you did that? Yeah. And so, we go big.
Oh, I know, right? We don't do anything half-assed.
So I'm in the, and I am like, girl, I have diarrhea so bad. And so, like, I go down. I'm like, let's all take a break. And so I go down to Chuck's office, and I'm like, I need you to pray over me because I feel like I'm going to lose it. And he did. He prayed over me, and it was like something in me just realigned. And I was able to go back and finish the day and the next day and the next day and the next for 2 weeks. I do 2 weeks straight. You know that. So, but like, to me, that's courage. It's like, yeah, I'm still going to have fear. I was scared to death to come into AA again. I was scared to death because I had I felt humiliated. I felt like a failure. Everywhere else I was able to, keep the spinning plates going.
Right.
But in that area is where I felt like I fell flat on my face. And to crawl back into AA and admit, okay, I fucked this up and I can't do it. I know I can't do it without you.
I can't even
and
succeed
I don't
at
even
this.
know how you're going to help me, but like, I don't even know if this is going to work for me. Maybe it's not going to work for me, but like just showing up, God, the courage that takes. And we don't feel like that because we feel like failures.
Right.
So we don't understand that. But in crawling in, on all fours when you are, just newly sober, that takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of guts. So
it sure don't feel like it at the time.
no, it doesn't. It's desperation.
But looking back, you're just like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
How did I get in that chair and stay?
Yeah, and then you go, and then the more so, this is the hope. The more sober you are, and the better your life gets. You look back and why did it take me so long to get here?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
but we do everything before that. We
Right.
keeps the self-help business in
we
business.
do. Oh yeah, we do.
I mean, if
let's try this.
Oh,
Let's
gosh.
try this.
Okay.
Let's try acupuncture.
Okay, let's see how we are on time. We're good. We got about 15 minutes. Okay, your turn.
Are you sure? Maybe you should draw for me.
No, go ahead. I don't know. I didn't draw that great. That last one was good.
Oh,
I like it.
Faith. Okay, Faith.
Oh,
I
I
can
love
do that.
that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good fluffy.
That's a good one.
That's a hard one.
That's a good one.
Faith. Faith. That requires works. It says that faith without works is dead, right? Faith without works is dead. So really, faith for me is an action. It's making a conscious decision every day to go to my higher power and to sit with Him and just, like you said, receive Him, and pray that that I'm forgiven. Every day when I screw up, I still need to go back to Him and say, you know what, I messed that up. I was rude to so-and-so. Now I need to go back and clean it up. I need, I'm asking you for forgiveness. And spending time in prayer and worship. I don't know why I did that, worship. But that's a big part of my obedience to my higher power. I know how to worship. I know how to worship. I know how to worship alcohol. I know how to worship people.
Well, isn't worshiping just giving it your attention? Giving it your
for me, it's the highest position. It's the highest praise. It's the one, for me, my higher power deserves that. Because everything, I was reading something this morning about obedience. We recognize and I'm going to mess that up. We recognize God's miracles and His presence when we are obedient to Him. And, I need to continually remind myself, Christine, that I'm not God, that He is. And that I can't, if I choose to worship myself, I'm in trouble. I am in trouble, But if I worship Him and I praise Him and I give Him the glory, then it comes back to me and countless others. Think about your work here and your work at OSS and, all the work that you've done. It's like, all these people have received grace and mercy. They're getting the benefit of, your praise and worship and faith. That's how I see it. But
faith to me, and I hope this makes sense, is releasing the results to whatever they're going to be.
So is it different from trust then? Is faith different from trust?
So I've said this on the show. Faith is being at a circus, and there's a high tightrope thing, and there's a guy that shows up and he's about to come out and he's got a wheelbarrow.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, I have faith he's going to make it across there because they wouldn't let him up there if he couldn't. Yeah. I'm sure. And I have faith he's going to make it. Trust, I go up and I get in the wheelbarrow.
Yep.
I think you're required to have both to receive what all God is willing to give you and has in store for you. My nightmare is to get to heaven and God go, if you'd only trusted me, this could have been your life. You know, I had faith that, and I trusted that if I did this podcast, one person would be helped. Anything past that is gravy, as far as I'm concerned. That's his. He gets the glory, whether it works or whether it doesn't. You know, same thing with Operation Sober Santa. Same thing with I try everything that I do. I try to have faith and trust in. And I plant the seed. I just want to plant the seed. And if God doesn't do something with the seed, now, I am literally the person. I think I told off on myself a couple of years ago when I did this, because we went to South Carolina one time. And Mary, Chuck's wife, you just spoke about Chuck. Mary, when they had gone to Jerusalem, had picked up seeds, and there's a tree there at our office building that she had planted that seed is now a tree from Jerusalem. So I want to be Mary, which they both passed, God rest their souls. But I want to be Mary. So when we went to South Carolina, I picked up a seed and I brought it back and I planted it in a pot. And 2 weeks went by. And there wasn't nothing poking through that dirt.
Yeah.
Would you like to guess what I did?
I have no idea.
I dug it up to see if it was growing.
It was germinating. That's hilarious.
I'm the digger-upper.
Yeah, right.
And God's like, really? Really?
Like, you're going to help this
That
process.
was a lack of trust.
Yeah.
So I'm not a digger-upper anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to plant the seed, and I'm not going to come back to say, did you learn that lesson? Did you, how did that make you feel? I'm not. I can't be that person.
No.
We plant the seed and we leave the results to God.
There
No
you
matter what it is, no matter what it is. When I get in the car at 4:00 today and head to Fort Worth, I'm going to plant the seed that God's going to get me there safely and get me home safely. I'm going to leave the results to Him.
Well, and faith has a lot of times been in retrospect. So like my husband tells me this. He's like, go back and think about all the times that he took care of us. Let's go back and look at that. And he has his own personal story with that, with our son. And just, that to me, faith requires an examination of where God has been in my life, performing miracles that I didn't even know were miracles at the time. But now, in retrospect, like being able to look back and go, wow, he was there.
That reminds
he was
me.
here.
That reminds me of a story
Tell me a story.
that Bob Darrell talks about in this deal. He talks about, and I know I'll screw it up, but he talks about back in the day. In London area, there were lamplighters, and the person would go around and light the lamps in the evening to light the streets and stuff like that. He said, so you never knew where that person was, but if you were to go up high, right, and look down, you can see where they had been.
Wow.
I know it gives it chillies, didn't it?
Story.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So that's like in my life. Like, I don't know where God is right this second. I know He's in the now. Let me rephrase that. I know He's in the now, but I can look back in my life and I can see where all the lamps were lit.
Absolutely.
And
the fact
that I forget that He does that.
Yeah.
Right? Because then I'll be worried about something. It's like, did you forget that I'm going to light that lamp? Are you serious?
Well,
like, this is what I do.
And the fact that we're here alive and sober,
oh
and we're not
gosh.
dead, we're
and
not
actually
in
being
prison.
of benefit to anything or anyone.
And we're helping people. That's gravy. That's like
just
icing.
weird.
Yeah, but the fact that we're alive and here. See, and there was a time when being alive was a curse.
Right.
That darkness that we're all under, that oppression, that under the disease of alcoholism, the weight of it. It's like, I didn't want to be here. The best blessing would for him to take me out, and now I think, God, thank God I didn't get what I wanted back then.
Right.
And so look where I am today and what a blessing that is, and hope that I can share my faith with somebody to help them.
Well, and see where all of those dark days and stuff added up to where we can be of service
absolutely.
to other people.
And it is true. The further down you go, the more helpful you can be. There's you can help people in ways that I can't. I can help people in ways that you can't. But like we all have our own story of recovery with that. And it doesn't matter how far, how severe, or how
far
bad,
down the scale we have gone.
That's right.
We will see how
our experience
can
be
benefit
others
to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do one more.
Okay, go for it. Oh, it's a good one.
Come on. Ew.
Oh, what?
Arrogance.
Oh,
shit. We're gonna end on that.
Maybe we've been arrogant today. I don't know.
Is arrogance the same thing as ego? Arrogance. I have to check myself constantly because I can be arrogant.
My poop don't stink.
You talk about arrogance. I'm gonna Google the definition. I'm a literal person.
I know.
Let's Google that. I'm getting my phone out.
It just to me, arrogance means that my poop don't stink. It's like that's what it means to me.
The quality of being arrogant. The arrogance of this man is astounding. The quality. Okay, so what does arrogant?
Arrogant mean
Having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. Ew, that's icky.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, am I the one? It's my turn.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, I was just thinking about, in terms of recovery, well, when I was drinking, I wanted to be, the queen of whatever it was, queen of Dr. Pepper 7-Up, queen of, dyslexia. I just wanted to be the queen. I wanted to be the one, and I think it was in recovery where I didn't want to be the queen of alcohol, but it became king. But in recovery, I remember, in relation to to just sharing my story with others and working through the steps with people. The biggest story I have of my own arrogance that I recall at the moment is when I was working with somebody at a halfway house, and it was the old Freeman Center. Mm-hmm. I was working with a girl. I used to take meetings there. Like I would just go and show up and hold a meeting, big book study or whatever. And there was a girl. There were plenty of people there who wanted to go through the steps. Plenty of women. So I took one of the ones I remember, by the neck and come on, let's do this. And so I'm like doing her step 1, 2, and 3, and she didn't have a spiritual experience that I knew that I could see, a visible spiritual experience like I did. Mm. And I left there feeling so down. And so I called.
It's like, what did I do wrong?
Well, yeah,
right?
I called our sponsor and I said, she didn't have a spiritual experience. And she said, Jennifer, you may not be there when she has one.
Oh, that's what I signed up for.
But in all honesty, like my arrogance, she's gonna have it in front of me.
And but follow that through and then thank me.
Yeah, and thank me. And like I will change her life forever, And I was and like playing God. Shit. I mean, it's really playing God. And so like I didn't trust the process that it was the steps that were going to help lead to her higher power.
Not you.
I thought it was coming from me because Millie. I mean, she was very impactful. Like God provided her with the right words, the thoughts, and the actions when I needed it. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to be that for somebody else. And the arrogance of that, I marvel at my arrogance, but I can laugh at it today. I'm like, isn't that ridiculous?
It's cute. See, and I had the reverse. I refused to sponsor too. Yeah. The first, the first 8.5, 9 years of my sobriety, I did not sponsor a single person. Yeah. I didn't want to screw them up.
Right.
I did not want to screw them up. But I didn't know that. And wouldn't you know, the first 2 people that asked me to sponsor them, it was very, very short-lived. And so I told our sponsor, no, I'm done with that. And she didn't make me. She was like, okay, but you can't make anybody drink or make anybody get sober. So, but I didn't understand that. Yeah. And I didn't understand how it was for my benefit too, so it took me a while. Yeah. It took me a while. But that's also a form of arrogance, though, thinking that I had the power to screw someone up.
Right. In pride in reverse. And then, but like, don't you think you're a different sponsor now?
Oh, heavens. Well, yeah.
And so, like, I used to, like, tell. Like, do this, do that, go to this, go to that, do. Mm-hmm. And what
Drill sergeant.
Yeah. And it's like, the funniest part about that is my sponsor wasn't like that with me
at all.
It's like, so I can't even blame her for that, Well, my sponsor, no, she didn't do any of that. She really sponsored me with a lot of love and acceptance and empathy because she could relate to me. And I
meeting you where you are, not telling you where you need to be.
Right, where I need to be, or judging me, I mean, she really so I try with as much as I can to, drop all that, and to just really, like, this is how I did it. So I'm going to show you how I did it. And I want, come along with me, and I'll be right here. And we're going to invite God into every meeting that we have, and that's really important for me. It's like when I'm doing work with somebody, I've got to have his presence because without him, it's just the mechanics of, so, and I don't know what God's going to tell them. I don't know how God's going to communicate them. I don't know what words they need to hear, but that's on him, not me.
Right.
All I can do is just show them in the simple way that's outlined what I did and hope that they get a lot from that. But yeah. I think arrogance is funny.
Or you can just plant the seed and leave the results but arrogance and ego. I mean, exaggerated opinion of yourself and then taking credit where it's just like I can't imagine. I'm that juvenile thinker. I just imagine God just sitting there crossing his arms, going, "Are you serious? You're taking, but you're did you do that? Is that what you did? Which I know.
I know.
What is it? I heard someone say the other day. God created us, and then we return the favor to him,
Yeah.
created us in his image, and then we return the favor, thinking he's a petty, judgmental, persnickety.
And I think as his kids, and I know we got to wrap it up, but I think as his kid, and what's emphasized in our program is that we share. We don't tell, we share.
Right.
And when we share, it's from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's from our own experience. So nothing I've said today is an expert opinion except on my own alcoholism, on my own experience, my own
Right.
strength, and my own recovery.
Right.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can speak to.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
hopefully
I
it
love
helped.
you.
I love you.
And this is fun. I won't put these back in there.
Okay, please
and
don't.
There's
Let's
a lot more topics.
Let's burn the hatred.
No, we're going to save
Oh,
these and replenish them because our answers,
see?
I'm sure, will be different next time.
I
So,
don't like that.
anyway, thank you
All
for
right,
coming on
thanks
here
for
with
having
me.
me.
Thank you for listening to the Purpose Driven Sobriety podcast. Keep coming back. Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.